Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of our Healthy Dose of Fran. Today, the Avatar returns in a new video looking at the follow-up Avatar to Korra, and particularly kind of just how we're going to be able to find them, because with the loss of the connections, the way in which most avatars were found in the past is going to be a little bit more difficult this time around. So today, I'll be exploring how will we find the next avatar. Now before I go on, I want to remind you guys to hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and the thumbs up if you do enjoy this video. Yes, I'm using a pillow and I will continue to do so. That wasn't actually a bad throw. I will continue to do so because I like it and it's very comfortable. So yes, hit that button if you haven't already, but let's get on to what you really want to know, and that is the Avatar stuff. Now, from the loss of the Avatar connections, which I have done a video on about why that was an important thing to have happen, and whichever side, it will be carded, so go check that out. But the way in which avatars were found in the past varied, particularly based on the nations and which avatar they were meant to be going to. The only place that, as far as I'm aware, we don't know had a specific way of finding the water tribe avatar, is the Water Tribe. For Fire Nation, Air Nomads and the Earth Kingdom, we all have an idea as to how they searched and found the next avatar. For the Air Nomads, it was using the toys of past avatars, or at least an item of them. And if the child picked all four, it means they were the avatar because they felt a connection to those items. For the Fire Nation, they used a special thing to basically help determine whether or not the child was also a firebender. Now, they do this apparently for firebending children in general, or at least children from birth, to determine whether or not they will be a bender. But from the sounds of it, they also do it at a later age for other benders. So say in the terms of Rise of Kyoshi, Heiran does this for Kyoshi to see whether or not she can light a spark. And if she is, that means she is the avatar, because not only is she an earthbender, she's also now a firebender. Then in terms of the Earth Kingdom, they do theirs a little bit differently, and it's basically by a process of elimination. They go by sort of a system of determining an area. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they determine the area in which there seems to be more spiritual power, and then they go through each child of the right age and determined through a process of tests and such. It's not explained as much in detail, other than the fact that the Earth Kingdom system didn't particularly work in terms of finding Kyoshi, so they moved on to the Air Nomad one. But those are the processes that we do know. Now, some of these can possibly be used in future, especially the Earth Kingdom one, to find an Earth Nation avatar. But other things like the Air Nomad tradition will no longer be available to use, because choosing an item, multiple items being that of 4 past avatars, is no longer possible due to that loss of connection. However, there are a few ways in which finding an avatar in different circumstances that could work, based on the different nations. Now, one possibility is based on Tibetan monks, and considering that the Air Nomads are based on Tibetan Buddhist monks, this seems like a plausible way in which this could work. Now, to find the next Dalai Lama, what they will do is go to a spiritual location entitled Lamo Lasao. I said that so wrong, I'm so sorry. But they go to that location and they will basically meditate for as long as it takes until they have a vision of who and where the next Dalai Lama is. And that's how they determine it. And considering that Air Nomads are an incredibly spiritual people, this seems like something that could be plausible to be used to find the next avatar. Especially considering we've got people like Janora, who is like Mrs. Spiritual now, who could use her spiritual projection, and actually she could use her spiritual projection. We've seen her use that in the past. When she's close to Korra's energy and the avatar spirit energy, she's able to sense her, so is able to use her spiritual projection and just her spirit to connect to the avatar spirit. Now, whether or not that's based on the fact that she knows Korra and she has that connection with Korra already, it's not really explained. But if this is taught to other air nomads who then can use this spiritual projection and connection to attach themselves to the avatar spirit, to find the avatar spirit, well, doing that meditation either through travelling in their nomadic routes or various things like that to find the next avatar, they probably could, using this spiritual side of who they are as a people. But speaking of spiritual, another thing that we learned from Legend of Korra was the determining of the spiritual side of firebending. Now, we know from the Sun Warriors that firebending can be spiritual and it can be very focused on inner strength and inner power. But in Legend of Korra, when Korra is harmed by a dark spirit and loses her memory and loses her spirituality in a sense, a firebender washes fire and flame in sort of like a waterbending technique over Korra's body and is able to sense that there is a disconnect between Korra and her avatar spirit. Now, who's to say that that can't be used to determine avatar spirit within children? Or at least within the firebenders, after using that technique of, the things that the firebenders do with that cotton flame stuff, I can't remember the wording for it. Shredded birch bark and cotton mixed with some special oils. That's what it is. Yes, I looked it up. Do not judge me. I didn't write it down. But to do that with the children when they're testing firebenders, if they know the next avatar is a fire avatar, for example, there could be something else that they could use to sense an avatar spirit connection. There could also be this sort of element of cultural teachings. Now, as we know with Iroh, he spent a lot of time studying other nations and even developing techniques like lightning redirection using waterbending movements and techniques. If throughout the world the different movements are taught to other nations, whether it be for defense uses or just kind of finding new ways to use their elements, like what we see with Zuko, quite a lot of his movements do actually have waterbending and earthbending movements. Same with Ty Lee and Suki's way of fighting. Suki has some firebending elements, while Ty Lee has some earthbending movements to her sort of static action. They already had a blending of cultural movements, so if that's put on a larger level in terms of bending training and so on and so forth, who's to say that an accidental element of, say, an earthbending student who is learning a firebending movement manages to actually do some firebending, revealing that they are the avatar? Things like that would be able to help, firstly, close the barrier between these cultural differences between the nations and kind of make the world more open and acceptable for everyone, so people aren't kind of disconnected as they were in the past, hence with what happened with the 100-Year War, and even the fact that the southern and northern tribes have been disconnected from each other for almost a century or two because of their distances. But removing the separation, as Iroh says, and making all of the nations and bending elements kind of blend together, sort of like an avatar, but not at the same time, to then find the avatar, who's to say that won't work? Then of course we do still have this idea of using past avatar tokens. Now, in Hikar's Spiritual Chronicles, which is a fan comic on Webtoon, and I'll link that down below, created by Airmaster Parker on Instagram, who is a member of the Legend of Genji fan comic as well. Hikar is determined to be the next avatar in the, I think it's the prologue or the first chapter, I can't remember exactly, due to the fact that he chooses two items of Korra's, her hairband, I think, and Naga's tooth. And choosing those items because of their connection to Korra proves that he is the the avatar. So technically that could still work by having multiple items and having maybe 2 or 3 that connect to Korra. And if the child chooses those 3 items, it means that they are sensing a connection to Korra, because while all the past lives before Korra are gone, the connection to Korra with this new avatar is there, and probably stronger than before due to this being a new line of avatars. So who's to say that process won't still work? And of course we've just got what happened with Korra using the White Lotus to search high and low for any hint of a child being the avatar, and when they do find them, taking them in and training them. But that one's not as exciting, so I didn't want to bring that up, but I did because I felt like someone's going to say it in the comment section. But yes, those are the possible ways in which an avatar could be found in the future, using different stars and techniques to discover them. But what do you guys think? What do you think could be used to find and determine who is the next avatar after Korra? Let me know in the comment section down below. Before I sign off, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to hit that button because that would be very lovely. In the description box down below, you'll find the links to all of my social media, my merchandise store where there's brilliant avatar merch on there, and my Patreon. If you want to support me during my process of making these videos, be sure to do so on Patreon. And again, yes, if you aren't subscribed, hit that button and the notification bell if you haven't already. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.